This artist name is Alev Lenz. She's German. And here's her song. That's the chorus of the song.
Don't watch me go, don't let me leave. Did I close the store or did you leave before? Don't watch me go, don't let me leave. Where was I before? Why don't I love you anymore?
This song was recorded in Munich in Germany and mixed in New York in my studio. And I use mostly Oxford plugins. Why is that? I use mostly Oxford plugins because they are very consistent from type of plugin to type of plugin, and also because they sound great, and also because they do everything I need them to do, so I don't have to bother with anything else, which is very nice for a lazy person like me. So, the first Oxford plugin I ever got was this EQ. This EQ is great because it's incredibly full-featured. It has 2 filters, high-pass and low-pass filter, and it's got 5 bands. Lows, low mids, mids, high mids, and high frequencies, and the bands overlap. One of the beauties, let me show you what I'm doing exactly. Now you can see everything the frequencies are. The beauty here is that once you start getting used to this filter, you can work very instinctively like you would on an analog EQ. You don't think as much when you use an analog EQ. You just go and turn knobs until it sounds good. This is a little bit the same. The first thing I would do every time I start anything is high pass.
Don't watch me go, don't let me leave.
I high pass everything I use. If you look at all my EQs, see I have a filter here, I have a filter here, I have a filter here, I have a filter here. Everything I do, the first thing I do is I high pass the material. Why do I do that? Because I don't necessarily need low-end information on everything. Actually, I don't want low-end information on everything. So I don't know how this vocal was recorded. Maybe there's a subway station. Maybe there's like rumble at 10 hertz that I can't hear on my speakers. So I always high pass the bottom of my tracks. It makes a much cleaner mix. Much cleaner mix. So I start by that. And then I look for my problems and remove them. In this particular case, I'm going to use type 1. There are 5 different types of EQ curves available when you use the Sonnox EQ. Type 1 is a reciprocal curve, which means the boost and the cut are the same, okay? Type 2 is non-reciprocal, which means that the boost is a certain way and the cut is different. The cut is much narrower, so now you can really cut just what you need to cut and nothing else, which I find very useful. If you compare with type 1, you notice that, if you use type 1 here, it would make more damage. Type 3 is kind of a more analog type of EQ where the Q and the gain are linked. The higher up you go in gain, the narrower is the Q. This is a very, very good way to work, a very musical way to work. Type 4, as you can see, is super smooth. Type 4 lets you do really gentle curves, almost like a Pultec style of very, very, very gentle curves. I use that also for that. And then you can buy the option of the GML. GML option for the TDM, Pro Tools TDM plugin, is the emulation of an 8200. GML 8200, if you're familiar with that EQ, it's a beautiful analog hardware EQ. And this is the software emulation. George Massenberg endorsed it and said, yeah, this sounds right, which is a difficult thing to get from him. So it's a very, very good sounding EQ. I tend to use type 3 for most of my things. So let's see what we can do here. So if I listen to my vocal, it's difficult here considering the amount of noise, but let's try.
Don't watch me go, don't let me leave. Did I close the store or did you leave before? Don't watch me go.
I find that there's a little bit of a nose at the bottom, and I find there's a little bit of aggression around 2.5K, so I do this.
Don't watch me go, don't let me leave. Did I close the store or did...
This is without.
Don't watch me go, don't let me leave.
This is with.
Don't watch me go.
A little cleaner.
Don't let me leave.
Most people EQ this way, and I do too very often. You boost, you look for what you don't like.
Watch me go. Don't let me
Say, I don't like this,
leave.
and then you remove.
Did I close?
Right? Most people do that, right? You boost, you listen to what the problem is, and you remove. The reason for that is because our ear is better educated to detect extra stuff rather than stuff that's missing. I find lately that if I do that too much, then my ear gets used to the boost, and then everything sounds dull when I remove it. For example, if you listen to a very bright track for 2 minutes, and then you listen to a normal track, the normal track is going to sound dull, right? If you listen to something very loud and very bright, then after that, everything else sounds dull for a while. So lately, I've been trying to just force myself to just cut and then move the cut and see what I like from the cut. It's longer, it's more difficult, but I get better results. If you cannot hear it yet, then you better use the other technique. But this is also an interesting technique to work like this. Another feature in this EQ is the A/B feature. So you have two presets you can use at the same time. So today we did this.
Don't watch me go. Don't let me leave.
And then
Did I?
at the studio I did this.
Don't watch me go.
Better.
Don't let me leave.
Right? So you can have two different type of EQ at the same time, and you can switch between them to compare. It's very practical. I propose we go back to what I did at the studio.
Don't watch me go.
I like this better.
Don't let me leave. Did I?
An amazing EQ. 5 bands, 2 filters, 5 different types of EQ, incredibly smooth and great sounding. That's also the key. The first time I listened to this EQ, I was like, oh, I don't need as much hardware EQs now because I have something that sounds great in the box.